All right, praise yes. So Mishpika, last week we stopped at this slide where we're showing the visual depiction the of the Egyptians and the visual depiction of the Israelites who were the slaves here, or the Hebrews. One thing I do want to share, and this is mainly based on scholarship, the term Israelites or Israel was not used until later on to describe descendants of Yaakov. They were called by other nations the Hebrew people. So when you look at some of the academic work, you'll hear them use the term. These were the Hebrew slaves in Egypt, and we know the biblical term for Egypt is Mizraim. Um, Here's something interesting to consider, Mishpeka. We think about the three sons of Noah. And there are a lot of assertions out there on the web now, and I sometimes smile and just keep it scrolling because people are just so overly sensitive that if you attempt to disagree with them or share something opposite of what they post or what they present, they think you are operating in an antagonistic spirit where you're coming against them, you're attacking them. Because within the Israelite community, you'll have some who claim that Japheth was a Caucasian, and they'll refer to Europeans as the descendants of Japheth. But when you think about Noah's three sons, I read one article that said it would be implausible. Again, none of us were there. We're going by information that we have received, information that we're analyzing, information that we have processed. None of us have stepped into a time machine to go back to look at Ham, Shem, and Japheth to see if they were all of the same skin complexion. However, some scholars assert that it would be implausible, and I would not use the word impossible, but it would be highly unlikely for Noah to have three sons with three different phenotypes, which then led to three different ethnic groups within the earth. The assertion by scholars are they were all negroid in features. They were all dark skinned. So while we look at the word Ham or Mizraim, Ham, burn face, dark face, Shem would also have a darker skin hue. So when we look at these paintings, we're looking at cousins, literally. The biblical narrative, and you may say, Maury, I never thought about it like that. The biblical narrative is really family fighting against family. I'll just let y'all think about that. When we think about the first criminal act in terms of a homicide or murder, it was between two brothers. Cain killed his brother Abel. When we think about the war between Israel, someone mic is open. I'm going to ask if you could be so kind to mute. When we think about the war to take over the land where the Most High, now listen to this, the Most High told Israel, the Hebrew people, to go in and to possess the land. There were already people living there. The Hittites, the Hivites, most of them, the Canaanites. Canaan is the grandson of Noah. Canaan is Ham's son. So now you're telling the descendants of Shem to go in and take something that was inhabited by their cousins. Have y'all ever thought about that? That this is a civil, this is a, I'm sorry, this is a rivalry among family member, or some would say sibling, although they're not brothers and sisters, but this is a family war. How many of you in the Caribbean or probably here in the United States, at the death of someone, the family fight against each other for property?
A lot of the time.
A lot of the time.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. So it is not unusual. So sometimes, Mishpika, we do not see ourselves in the text. We do not see our culture in the text because of how it was presented to us. We think about tribal war within Africa, on the continent, melanated people fighting against melanated people. So here we have melanated people who are ruling over other melanated people and their family members when you trace their genealogy. Their kinfolks. Thought provoking. All right, let's move on. So from Africa to Israel. So now we're talking about Eretz Israel, or the land mass called Israel. And when we talk about Africa here, we're talking about Egypt. So the Hebrews were eventually enslaved by the Egyptians, were led out of Egypt by Moshe. This was known as the Exodus around 1200 BC. Joshua led his people to the land of Canaan, today known as Israel. So before it was called Eretz Israel, it was called the land of Canaan. This is why some of our ancestors never called it Israel when they were enslaved. They called it Canaan land. Were you all aware of that? Anyone aware of that? That some of our enslaved ancestors, they would talk about going back home to Canaan land. They didn't call the land Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. They knew it as the land of Canaan or Canaan, because that's the name it had before it was occupied by the Hebrews and called Eretz Israel. They were given the Ten Commandments by the Most High, and there are more than 10 commandments, but they were given the commandments by the Most High as their rule of law, because now they are a nation. They need laws to govern them. If there are no laws, then there is anarchy. People just do what they want to do when they want to do it, and there are no consequences. So now we have a code of law. This is why the awakening is so important for us to understand. As a people, we have a code of law that we go by, that we live by, given to us by our Creator. Because each country, there were laws in Mizraim. So now that Israel is becoming a nation, they need laws to govern them. So the mitzvot should not be looked at as something burdensome, something so hard and difficult as our Christian brothers and sisters make it out to sound. It's for us to experience a governing system that is contingent upon justness and fairness. And this is why we see throughout the Old Testament, or some would call it Tanakh, the Most High being so angry with the leaders within Israel because they perverted justice. So our Mashiach said to the scribes, to the Pharisees, he said, you ignore the weightier matter of the law. It's good to wear tzitzits because they wore tzitzits. As a matter of fact, or fringes, some may say, the fringes worn by the Pharisees were extremely long. They were focused on hand washing, if I may say it like this, and I will be forthcoming and say this is a slight exaggeration on my part. Some of us as Hebrews focus more on the external matters. Are you wearing your tzitzits? Are you wearing your head wrap? When the issue at hand is justice, are we administering justice when it comes to evaluating matters? This is what the most I was concerned about. The corruption. Okay, can we just be real? We're talking about our history. Within a lot of quote unquote black nations, there are a lot of corrupt leaders. Guess what? There were corrupt leaders in Israel as well. Almost half of the kings were corrupt. So when we look at some of the African nations and some of the quote unquote black countries, and we see their leadership being corrupt, We don't even see the connection to the biblical text that this is something that our ancestors did repeatedly that angered the Most High. The lack of the proper administration of justice. Think about it, Mishpika. For those who are a bit traveled, you've traveled to some nations and you see the poverty and how wealthy some of the quote unquote black leaders are living. This was common within Israel. And that's why the Most High was so angry with the leadership of Israel, because they perverted justice. So circa 12 to 1030 after the death of Moses, the conquest of the promised land was led by Joshua. This is where we see the confederation of the 12 tribes of Israel as they receive land allotment. And to be transparent with you, not all 12 tribes entered the land. The tribe of Dan did not enter the land. They pitched their tent on the outskirts of Eretz Israel. We also saw charismatic military political leaders called judges, Gideon, Samson, Deborah, because now we need administrators, we need political figures to help Israel defend itself. Events recorded in the book of Joshua, Judges, and Ruth. So then we move into an era called the Golden Age of Israel, or the United Kingdom of Israel. Because prior to this, Israel was divided. There were a lot of fighting, there were a lot of civil battles within the nation. These are people who knew who they were, knew who their Elohim was, but they're fighting against each other. Do not think it's strange, Mishpachah, when we experience negative interactions in terms of what some would consider family fight or family drama. This is interwoven into our culture and our heritage. The Most High gave Israel a king because of their desire. Samuel was crying, saying that the Most High wanted to be their king, but they said, we want to be like other nations. We want a king. Most High gave them a king. Samuel is crying, and Most High said, don't cry. They have not rejected you. They've rejected me from being their king. Saul started out good, and I want to express to you all that Saul was handpicked by the Most High. I had a somewhat amicable debate with a brother who said that no, the people chose Saul. I said, not based on what I'm reading in the text, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So when we think about a kingdom, the Most High wanted to be king, but they requested an earthly king, someone who they could see as a visual representation. I'm going to pause here. One of the issues we've had in the past is the fact that we want something and someone tangible that is relatable when it comes to expressing the will of the Most High. Why you say that, Moreh? Okay, Moshe goes up to get the mitzvot or mitzvotim, the commandments. What did Israel say, or some of the Israelites? We want an Elohim that we can see. Hence the building of the golden calf. We're so driven by our senses that we miss the element of faith, because we want to see, we want to feel, we want to touch, we want to hear. The Most High wanted to speak to Israel, and they said, no, 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 no. You tell Moses, and then Moses come tell us. The Most High wanted to be their king, but they wanted a king that they can see. So they said, no, we want a king like the other nations. Mishpachah, I urge you, as we continue this awakening, that we grow from a place where we're so dependent on our sensory perception, our sensory needs, where we always need to see, show me, the Most High, this is your will, just show me this. Give me a sign. Show me a sign if I need to go. Give me a sign if I need to stay. Mashiach got weary and frustrated with them, constantly asking him, give us a sign. Show us a sign that you're the Mashiach. He said to them, an evil and adulterous generation seek after signs and wonders. Why? Because you should be at a place of faith where you believe without seeing, without hearing, without tasting, and without touching. That is a level of faith that the Most High is looking for within Israel. There are very times where the Most High said to Israel, you're a faithless generation. This is why Mashiach commended the centurion so much. He said, no, you don't have to come. Just send the word, I believe. Mashiach said, oh, if there would be such faith in Israel. But again, our people, listen to this, we always want proof. Show me. Instead of believing the Most High and being led by the Most High. Circa 1000, Jerusalem conquered by King David's army, made capital of all Israel. David expand the kingdom. Yah's promises to the house of David will rule Israel forever. But this did not happen peaceably. There was war between the house of Saul and the house of Dawood. Again, this constant civil war between Israelites. So when we think about the camps fighting against each other, this is nothing new, Mishpachah. This is our history. The house of Shaul fought against the house of Dawood to the point where the Most High had to say, stop, send the prophet and say, stop. Let there be no more fighting against both of you. And even during David's reign, there were Hebrews who were trying to usurp authority to restore the throne to the descendants of Shaul. Circa 970, the temple was built in Jerusalem by David's son, King Solomon. And then we move into what is called a centralized worship, because before then, worship was at the tent of meeting, this tabernacle that was movable. So now we have this fixed central place of worship in the history of Israel. Circa 930, the death of Solomon, the throne succession struggles as we have different kings who rose up. And then we see one of the first major split in the nation of Israel, where the northern kingdom split from the southern kingdom, where Jeroboam leads the northern kingdom into idolatry, while Rehoboam led the southern kingdom into oppression with harsh rulership. So expression of art, the first from the Bristol plaster, believed to be a Byzantine plaster, written in the 11th century in ancient Greek. This plaster has 14 odes and the apocryphal Psalm 151. The exact province is unknown, described as unnoticed Byzantine plaster in a 1921 magazine. It shows King David with his musicians. Again, as you can see here, they're described as melanated people, not Caucasian Europeans. So divided monarchies. So we have the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, as I mentioned. So 922 BCE to 582 BCE. The Kingdom of Israel ruled by several series of corrupt kings, starting with Jeroboam. In 721, the fall of the Northern Kingdom, where the Assyrian comes in, captures the capital of Samaria, deport, or some say deported, but took into captivity most of the Israelites. and brought in foreigners into areas of former Israel. Now, let me pause here. Recently, I read a book by a Samaritan who claimed that. Let me grab the book and I'll show you all in just a moment. Can everyone see my screen?
Can, Maury.
All right. So this book is called Understanding the Israelite Samaritans from Ancient to Modern. The scholar here is Carter. I'm sorry, no, this is Carter Jerusalem. The scholar's name is, I'm not sure, can you all see his name there?
Can, Maury.
Okay. He asserts that the current people in Samaria are Israelites who never left. That is being challenged by academia because you look at them and you can see that they don't share a lot of Afrocentric or what some would call, and these are modern terms. So please understand, these are modern terms. When we look at a word like Negro, that's not a term indigenous to the text. That I think was developed by those in Spain to describe the color of some of the occupants or some of the people that were in their region. Negro, or Negro, means black. So I'll use the term melanated or dark skin. We look at the modern Samaritans and they don't look dark skinned. You read some of the academic sources and it talks about the ancient Israelites being a dark skinned people. So one, you have to ask the question, how did they become so light? And there's a few theories that have been put forth. One, they are Assyrian in nature that assimilated into the Israelite culture and adopted the culture based on Second Kings, where the inhabitants that the Assyrians sent in, they were being ravished by animals. And the king was informed is because the people you sent there, they don't know the Elohim of that land, and they're not keeping with his ways. So the king of Assyria sent back Israelite scholars, allegedly, and Israelite priests to teach the people how to keep the law of that land. So many of them became converts while some reverted. Another theory is that they became light due to the Islamic conquest in that region. But that's a debate that is still going on. But I just wanted to share that with you all. When we think about the capture of the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, it was not a total evacuation. They took the best of the best, the merchants, the craftsmen. They left behind those who were considered feeble, those who were considered a liability. Because when you think about building up your kingdom, you want the best. So even in the southern kingdom, some of the scholars said that the Israelites who were there were Negroid in feature. Get back to sharing my screen here. All right. So this is for the northern kingdom, ruled by several wicked kings. The southern kingdom, kingdom of Judah. So the northern kingdom is called the kingdom of Israel. So when we read throughout the prophets, you'll hear the reference to the Most High will regather Israel and Judah as if it's two different people. No, it's simply giving you the viewpoint of the author that these two kingdoms were split, and at the regathering, it will be both of these kingdoms coming back together. Around 720s, religious reform under King Hezekiah, resistance against Assyrian takeover. In 620s, religious reform of King Josiah, and we have what is considered the restoration of the Deuteronomy era. So when we think about the judgment of Israel, why did Israel go into captivity? It was a result of the judgment of the Most High, because they perverted the Most High's justice system. Therefore, they have to face the judgment. Justice and judgment is the common theme from Genesis to Revelation. The justice system of the Most High is based on his instructions, which we call Torah. That is what the Most High will use to judge Israel and judge the other nations. So it is nonsensical for us to say the Torah is not valid, because if the Torah is no longer valid, then there is nothing to base the Most High's justice system on. And if there's nothing to base the Most High's justice system on, then there's no way to adequately administer judgment. Deuteronomy 28:48, you will serve your enemies. Yahuwah will send against you in famine, thirst, nakedness, and destitution. He will place an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. Deuteronomy 28:6-6. So your life will hang in doubt before you, and you will be afraid night and day, never certain of survival. Deuteronomy 28:68. Yahuwah will return you to Egypt in ships by a route that I said you should never see again. There you will sell yourselves to your enemies as male and female servants, but no one will buy you. The Assyrian conquest of Israel, the Assyrian captivity or the Assyrian exile, is the period in the history of ancient Israel and Judah during which several thousand Israelites and ancient Samaria were resettled as captives by Assyria. The captivities began approximately 750 BCE, according to other sources, 733, 732. We can find some of this in Chronicles 5:26, 2 Kings 17:3-6, 2 Kings 18:11-12. The latter Assyrian ruler, Sargon II, and his son and successor, Sennacherib, were responsible for finishing the 20-year demise of Israel's northern 10-tribe kingdom. Although they did not overtake the southern kingdom, Jerusalem was besieged but not taken. The tribes forcibly resettled by Assyria later became known as the 10 lost tribes. So here's the Assyrian conquest. As you can see in this map here, from Samaria all the way over into the region of Assyria. Now, Nineveh is said to be one of the capital cities. Some say it is the capital of Assyria. So this is why the story of Jonah is so interesting, because there were Israelites dwelling in Nineveh, and the Most High was sending judgment against Nineveh. But he was allowing Nineveh to repent because there were Hebrews there. Goes back to the question that Abraham asked the Most High, will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Because believe it or not, the nations that took Israel captive, they're going to be punished. It's a part of the Most High's justice system. This is why we see so many of our Hebrew brothers and sisters having this propensity and this drive to say that America is going to be punished. But not only America, all the nations that took Israel captive will be punished. So now punishment is coming to Nineveh, but the Most High is saying, I have my people there. Jonah, go down and tell them to repent. Jonah is like, I don't want to go because you need to punish them. You need to break their necks. You need to destroy them for the wickedness. I am embellishing here. This is not literally written in the text. I want to be transparent and sharing. I'm just embellishing here. So go with me if you don't mind. Similar to most of our brothers and sisters saying, we want the Most High to rain on fire in America because of the wickedness of America. But you're still here. Will the Most High destroy the righteous with the wicked? I would assert that before the Most High destroys America, all the righteous Hebrews going to have to get up on out of here. That's a little bit of Floridian Ebonics for you. The Most High does not show a pattern of destroying the wicked with the righteous. The wicked will be taken, the righteous will be preserved and saved. Yashad, delivered. So the Most High sends Jonah to go down here to Nineveh. He's like, I don't want to go because, they're going to repent and you're going to withdraw your wrath. Why? Because there were Israelites dwelling in Nineveh. Over here we have Babylonia or Babylon further on down, where the southern kingdom was taken. The Assyrian besiege of Samaria, another kingdom, took place approximately over 20 years. Here we have historical evidence. The Lachish relief are a set of Assyrian palace reliefs narrating the story of the Assyrian victory over the kingdom of Judah during the siege of Lachish in 701 BCE, carved between 700 to 681 BCE as a decoration of the southwest palace of Sennacherib in Nineveh in modern Iraq. The relief is today in the British Museum in London. I would encourage you all who live in the UK to probably stop by and visit this to see what some of your ancestors looked like. Has anyone in the UK visited the British Museum to look at this relief? UK?
Not true. Okay, somebody else say something. Okay, I was just saying I didn't find this relief and I was looking for it, but I was with a young person and they got very tired, so I didn't get to see it.
Get to see it. Okay. So this is a little bit more depth of the Israelites or the conquest over the Judeans or those who were taken captive. And as you can see, they do not have long straight hair. They have short curly hair and beard. So that's from the Lachish relief. After a long siege, the city of Lachish surrendered and the Assyrian army entered the city. King Sennacherib sit on his royal chair surrounded by attendants and greets a high-ranking official. The king reviews Judean prisoners, again, Judean prisoners, Hebrews. The cuneiform inscription read, Sennacherib, king of the world, king of Assyria, sat on a throne, and the booty of Lachish passed before him. I want to stop right here. I want you to understand when the ancients spoke of the world, they weren't talking about the entire globe. I just want to make you aware of that. So sometimes when you read in the biblical text and talks about the world, it's not talking about the globe. It's talking about their region. They view that as their world or the world according to them. Sennacherib was not king of the entire globe. He was not king of Asia, was not king of different regions in Africa, not king of different regions in India. His kingship was localized to Assyria, but he conquered different regions and brought them over. So I just want to make you aware of that. So sometimes we read and it says the whole world, we're thinking the entire globe. it's something, it generally means that local region. So here is something to consider. Considering how the ancients spoke, when we read John 3:16, are we reading it correctly? Let's move on. So this is on the wall relief from the Southwest Palace at Nineveh, modern day Ninawa Governorate, Iraq, Mesopotamia, Neo-Assyrian period 700 to 692 BCE. And again, this is in the British Museum in London. I would encourage y'all to look at it. So this is where some of the questions come in. As we can see here, this is depicting a family, a Judean family. The women had their heads covered. So when we see women today within the Hebrew community covering their heads, it was not a command, but a custom. We see some Hebrew men wearing what is called a mitri with fringes on his corner. I have one, I just don't know how to get it to work. I'm just going to be honest. I have a long mitri. I just can't figure out how to wrap it around my head. But here it appears there are fringes at the border of this man's mitri. Short beard. Again, most Israelite men had beard. And this is why some within our community put so much emphasis on Hebrew men having beards. It was a part of the culture. So after the sack of Lachish, the Judean prisoners were deported into exile within other parts of the Assyrian Empire. People took their belongings and whatever animal they could. This relief depicts a man, two women, and two male and female children being deported with their household belongings. Wall relief from the Southwest Palace. Again, it's telling you where it is. But again, this is the image that is being referenced. A man and his family. So Babylonian conquest of Judah. I'm going to stop here, praise Yah, and pick up with this next week, talking about the Babylonian exile. And hopefully we can wrap this part up. But this is part one of a part 4 series on a brief overview of our Israelite history. Praise be to Yah.